Hello everyone, happy March. It is time for my February reviews, and if you're new here, every month I wrap up everything I've read, I watched, I consumed, and I talk about whether or not I enjoyed it. So we're going to do that for February. We've got the last remaining bits of daylight, so let's crack on. To begin with, I've got 3 movies. I feel like I haven't seen very many movies before February, or in recent times, but in February I saw 3. The first of which was Black Klansman, and I remember it coming out a couple of years ago and hearing a lot of buzz around it, but not really knowing what it was about or why there was so much buzz. And we finally ended up watching it, and I did enjoy it. I wasn't blown away by it, but it was interesting. There were just bits about it that were frustrating to me, but it is based on a true story, so you've got to take it with a grain of salt. But overall, I did enjoy it. Next, we watched Woman of the Hour, which again, based on a true story, and again I had some qualms with, but I did enjoy overall, and it was a very interesting story as well. And I felt like the ending for that one was especially powerful. And then finally, we saw Hamnet. We saw this in the theatre a couple of years ago now, and I loved it. I didn't know anything about it when we went to see it, the play, and it was really good. And I did enjoy the movie, but I didn't enjoy it as much as the play. But it was very good, and I did still enjoy it. And I am still curious to read the book. Again, I didn't know it was based off a book. I did know when I went to see the film, but not when I went to see the play. But I felt like I'd already seen the play, so it didn't really matter as much. But yeah, did enjoy it, but preferred the play. The next category is books, and I've got a lot, actually, for this month. I don't quite know how that happened, especially considering it's only 28 days, but we managed to do it. So the first one was a non-fiction called Grief is for People by Sloane Crosley. And I feel like this had come recommended by someone, I can't remember who. And it was good, and it was obviously sad. But I didn't really feel like I got the point of it. And maybe it's not about it having a point. And maybe for people who've experienced grief and loss in that way, it's, more impactful. But I don't know, I was kind of reading it thinking maybe this is just a companion for people rather than like giving you tips or making you think about grief in a different way. I don't know, maybe it does work for some people, but I just didn't really get it necessarily. But I did still enjoy it as a book. Next, I read Black Butterflies by Priscilla Morris. This one was interesting in terms of its setting. Oh, I'm gonna forget this now because it was really early in the month. But it was set, I want to say, in Serbia or somewhere in that region. And it was during a war, but I can't remember now which war, which is annoying. But it was a setting that I've not really read about before, and I didn't even really know about the war. Clearly it hasn't stuck that well in my mind, but it was so interesting to read about this war that I knew very little about. And I did think it was a really good book, and really interesting for that reason, and also quite sad. Next, I read The Salt Path by Raina Wynn, which is another non-fiction. This was an audiobook, and it was read by the author, so I feel like, again, that maybe needs to come with a grain of salt, but no, not even that. I just didn't love the narration. It was kind of bothering me, and obviously, that's a shame, but I feel like that really affected how I felt about this book, because it was a really interesting story, and it was good, but just the irk of the narrator just really made it less of a less pleasant reading experience for me. Next, I read The Remains of the Day by Kazuo Ishiguro. I read another book by them last year called Never Let Me Go, which I did enjoy, but then the ending let it down a little. But this one, again, it must have come recommended. It was on my to-be-read pile, so I read it. And it was fine, but it was quite slow, and again, I didn't really see the point of it. And basically it was telling you about something that was happening in the present, but then in most of the book was spent in the past. And obviously that's a choice to narrate it that way. But I feel like I didn't enjoy that as much. I would have rather had all the before and then the now. I just felt like it was so much more about the past that focusing it on the future focusing it on the present just didn't feel like it was justified necessarily. But we've learnt before that I don't always get the classics, so maybe this is something that just went over my head. Then I read The Great Circle by Maggie Shipstead, which I really enjoyed. That was a good book. It was long, it was 25 hours, it was an audiobook, although I did also read some of it as a ebook. But yeah, I did really enjoy it. And again, that's a historical fiction, so, that's the genre I like most. Then I read Big Little Lies by Leanne Moriarty. This was an audiobook. And again, it was read by, not again, but this one was read by an Australian narrator. And I've said before that I really try and avoid listening to Australian narrators for audiobooks, not because there's anything personal or whatever. I just don't find that a pleasant reading experience for myself. And that is something I know about myself, which is why I try to avoid it. But again, this one's been on my list for so long, many years. So again, I just wanted to read it. And you know, I tried to ignore the fact that it was an Australian reader. To be fair, it is set in Australia, so like it makes sense that that's the reader, but it just wasn't great for me. But in terms of how I felt about the actual book, I also didn't love it. I know there's a TV show, so I'm curious because I think that's been a hit. So I'm curious to watch that. But it just felt like really childish. It was set in a school setting, and like even though it's covering dark topics, the language, and again maybe that is the Australian side of it, because I remember feeling that when I was living in Australia, just that everything felt a little bit more childish and basic. So maybe again that's a choice, but it just frustrated me, and I just felt like these were adults talking like children a lot of the time and behaving like children, and I was not up for that. Gosh, it wasn't a great reading month, was it? I mean, I feel like I sound a lot more negative now than I felt about these books. Like, I don't think any of them were scored below, like, 3.5, maybe 3. So, like, obviously they weren't that bad. But, yeah, just not the best reading month. But then I have one more, which is The 7-Year Slip by Ashley Poston. And I think most of I definitely read some of it as an ebook, but I feel like some of it might also have been an audiobook. And I loved the concept of this, and it was a really sweet book, and like if you're looking for romance, this definitely is that. And it was okay, but again it felt a bit basic to me. It just felt like there was more there that could have been fleshed out. But I did enjoy it. Like, I really liked a lot of it. It also just felt very predictable to me, and I don't know if that's just because I can, like, see certain patterns or if everyone would find it predictable. But there were a lot of things that felt like they should have been twists, but that I just saw from a mile away. But again, that could just be me. I don't know. Moving on, our next category is music/audio. I don't know why I've got that as two different things, but anyway, I've just got one song, which is Shadowless from the musical Shadowless, which is a song I actually had to sing for a performance I did in February, and I quite like it as a song. It's quite like, I don't know, it makes me think of Facade from Jekyll and Hyde, which I also love, so I'm glad I was introduced to it. Then for travel, I've got two. I went to Amsterdam in February. So the first one actually is Amsterdam, the city. We spent like half a day walking, actually more than half a day, walking around. And I love it. But then we also went to a museum called the Verlinden Museum, which is really cool. And I'd never been there before, I'd never heard of it, but it was really fun. So that was great. I have vlogged all of that, but that's not going up until I think May. So stay subscribed if you want to see all that. But yeah, it was good. I had a great time. And then finally, I've got one other, which is just the Winter Olympics, because I was watching a lot of them during February, a lot of the ice skating especially. Not ice skating, the speed skating. And I just really enjoyed watching it. I feel like I haven't watched it as intently as I did this year ever before. So that was fun. And then finally, I always finish my reviews on a song of the month. This is just for my own sake. This doesn't actually mean anything. It's just a song that's been very relevant in the month. And this month it was very, very easy for me to pick one because again, it was one that I had to sing for this performance evening, and it was My Name in Lights from The Attic, and I had to practice it day after day after day because it was a song I'd never heard of before, and I was very stressed about it, but I think it went well in the end. Anyway, that is all from me today. Let me know some of your favourites, some of the things you enjoyed. If you've read any of these books, I'm especially curious what your thoughts are on it, or if you've seen Big Little Lies, the TV show. And I'll see you all very soon in another video. Bye!